Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, Bu Iman, Pak Yendi, dan Bu Olin, as well as the members. And good morning, Pak Pepinas, as my thesis supervisor. So in this special occasion, I would like to present the revision of my thesis with the title Conceptual Metaphor Analysis in CS Selected Song Lyrics. So the suggestions given by the examiners are the keys to improving the thesis betterment, and also the discussion with my thesis supervisor were carried out. So the changes were carried out with the thesis supervisor's direction based on suggestion given by the examiners. So the first is suggestions from Bu Iman. So the first suggestion is revise the dedication and write only in formal mode. So I revise my dedication. I remove most of the content of my dedication, and such as dedication for my laptop and for my room and for myself. So I only left the most important, and only the importance one on my dedication page. And then the next suggestion is move the statement on the background section. This statement, therefore, using the theory of conceptual metaphor proposed by George Lakoff, etc. So this statement, I moved this statement to the method section because it's supposed to be on the method section. And the next one is move the statement on the objective section, which is this statement. This research focuses on conceptual metaphor analysis, etc. To the focus of the research. Of course, because it's supposed to be on the focus of the research sections. And the next suggestions is change the references to books or articles only written in English. So before I use two books written in Indonesian and my methodology. So I changed my references to the books and articles written in English. So the first one is the book Metode Penelitian Kualitatif dan R dan D oleh Sugiono in 2013. So I changed this to references from, I changed my references about qualitative descriptive research to the book by Lambert VA and Lambert CA. And the next one is from Sudaryanto, which is the book Metode dan Teknis Analisis Data, to differences about document analysis by Bowen GA in 2009. The next suggestions, and on the data collection, delete the procedures before analyzing the data. So before I write steps that or procedures I have done on my I have done before analyzing the data on the data collection, which are not supposed to be there. So I delete those procedures. And the last suggestion from Bu Iman is change the wrong terms, which is oriental metaphor to orientational metaphor, because there's no such a oriental metaphor. So I changed the terms. And then also the word implies because in the song lyrics, the conceptual metaphor are not implied, but it applied by the songwriter. So I changed the terms. So that's all from the suggestions from Bu Iman. The next one is suggestions from IND. So the first suggestions is change the research questions by adding questions of what are the meanings of the conceptual metaphors. So here the revised research questions. So I'm adding the meaning question to my first research question. So before, it's only what are the types of conceptual metaphors found in SIA selected song lyrics, and how are the conceptual metaphors applied in SIA selected song lyrics. And I change it into what are types and the meanings of conceptual metaphors found in SIA selected song lyrics. And then the second one, I didn't change the research question. So I'm adding the research question without changing the second one. So for the findings, I'm adding findings about the meaning, but without removing the findings from the second research questions. So that's the revisions. It's also based on the discussion before with my thesis supervisor. And then the next suggestions is start the theoretical framework with semantics as research fields in general. So I put and so I add the explanation about semantics as my research field in general. So I explained about semantics in the theoretical framework in the first paragraph on my theoretical framework. In the introductory paragraph, there's also just like how suggested by Bu Iwan before also. So I start my theoretical framework with semantics in the introductory paragraph. I explain about semantics there. And then the next suggestion from Pak IND is find the newest reference about conceptual metaphor. So the newest reference I could find is the book with the title Extended Conceptual Metaphor Theory by Koufaxis in 2020. So from this book also helped me to the next suggestion from Pak IND is to differentiate structural metaphor with lexical and grammatical metaphors from other theories. So in the theoretical framework, on my theoretical framework, specifically in the structural metaphor section, I'm adding a differentiation between structural metaphor with lexical and grammatical metaphors by Halliday. So in the on a page 15, I wrote the differentiation. So it explained that Lakoff and Jensen's structural metaphor has some similarity to Halliday's view of metaphor and systemic functional linguistic by Halliday. So Halliday distinguishes between lexical metaphor and grammatical metaphor. Lexical metaphor deals with the metaphorical extension of word meaning, while grammatical metaphor involves variation in expressing meaning through grammar and is often realized through denominalization. For example, like from he advised me to he gave me advice. So the normalization of the verb advised me. And so here I stated that although both perspectives highlight how meaning can be conveyed metaphorically, their emphasis is different. So after I read again about both of the theories, so that's from my perspective that Lakoff and Jensen focus on conceptual domains and how abstract concepts are structured by concrete ones, which is a cognitive approach, while Halliday focuses on linguistic realization at the level of lexis and grammar, which is a linguistic approach. So in other words, Lakoff and Jensen emphasize metaphor as thought, while Halliday emphasizes metaphor as language. So, in addition, according to Koufaxis in his book Extended Conceptual Metaphor Theory in 2022, conceptual metaphor operate across multiple levels of semanticity, so which are image schemas, domains, frames, and mental spaces. And for the structural metaphors, it lies in the domain and frame levels. So the theory prioritizes conceptual mapping and meaning over syntactical or grammatical structures. So in this research, I focus on mapping between search domain and target domains, and the meanings between meanings generated thereby. So I only focus on the mapping between the domains and the meanings generated by this mapping. So rather than conducting detailed syntactical analysis. So, and this align with the theoretical stance in extended CMT, conceptual metaphor theory, which sees metaphorical meaning as arising from mental and contextual activity more than grammatical form. So supported by this, by this, and also after the discussion with my thesis supervisor, we decided not to edit syntactical elements for the structural metaphors. So, just to stick on the theory by Lakoff and Jensen and supporting by Kovacs's theory. And then, but after reading this theory, this comparison with Halliday lexical and grammatical metaphor helps me to clarify that helps us to clarify that structural metaphor can also be viewed in parallel with metaphorical processes at the linguistic level, as suggested by Pak Ayendi. Okay, so the next suggestion by Pak Ayendi is number systematically the data analyzed with the data put in the appendix. So I revised my appendix by adding a summary table, which contains like so all of my data. I number systematically the data from the first one to the last one, song by song. So, and I put it on the table. So I hope this way can help the readers can easily trace each analyzed metaphor to its position in the song lyrics. So, okay, that's all from the suggestions from Ayendi. And then for the next one is suggestions from Bu Olin. So, the first suggestion is to, So the first suggestion is to explain the reason for the use of structural metaphor more than any kind of the metaphor for NCS song lyrics on the findings and the conclusion of your research. So, adding CS, but also, and the second suggestion is to add CS profile on the findings, because when we're talking about a metaphor, it cannot be separated from the person who produced the language. So, I added CS profile on my finding in the page 74. Here I stated that Sia tends to use structural metaphors more frequently in her lyrics because they allow her to articulate abstract and deeply personal experiences through more concrete and relatable terms. So she's known as a singer-songwriter who is very open about her personal struggles with anxiety, depression, and trauma, which are very emotional and abstract experiences. So she has openly stated in an interview with Rolling Stone that songwriting and singing become her way to cope with emotional pain and to process her struggle after experiencing dark periods in her life. So therefore her preference for structural metaphor is not incidental, but rather stems from her personal history, artistic identity, and emotional expression as a songwriter. Because by using structural metaphors, Sia is able to narrativize her personal struggles in a way that listeners can grasp emotionally and intellectually in more familiar concepts. So, I also add this explanation to my conclusion. So in page 76, I stated that the domination of structural metaphors in Sia's lyrics can be linked to her personal background, as she often relies on them to transform her struggles with trauma, addiction, and emotional pain into more concrete images that listeners can grasp. So that's how I revised my thesis for the findings and conclusion from the suggestion from Bu Olin. And the next one was I mentioned the data were in process in the data collection, also suggested by Bu Olin. And then the next suggestion is change the research question by adding the question of what are the meanings of the conceptual metaphors. Just like how Pa Ayandi suggested before. So I changed my research question by adding a question of what are the meanings of the conceptual metaphors. And then there's a question from Bu Olin about how will you ensure the reliability of your metaphor identifications, especially when talking about such domain and target domain and on making conceptual metaphor classification. So how I will ensure my reliability of my identification and my analysis is, of course, by supporting my analysis, my identification with the theory, which is the lack of ingestion theory about conceptual metaphor, and also supported by Koufax's theory about the extended conceptual metaphor theory for the domain mapping, because Koufax's explained in detail how the mapping happens. And then how on making the conceptual metaphor classifications, of course, is also based on the theory by lack of ingestion. So here's the word clues that I use to ensure my reliability. So when the lyric involves direction or spatial orientation, it tends to be classified as orientational metaphor. When it involves physical embodiment of abstract ideas, it becomes ontological. And when one abstract concept is systematically understood through another concept structure, so it's structural metaphor. So that's how I will ensure the reliability of my analysis. And then the last suggestion by Bu Olin is please be careful to the type of error on your writing. So I use Grammarly to fix the grammar errors or mistakes in my writing. So I think that's all. That's all for my revision presentation, my thesis revision presentation. So thank you so much for the suggestions and feedback of Bu Iman, Pak Ayendi, and Bu Olin. And thank you so much, Pak Us, for guiding me to finish this thesis. So thank you so much for watching my presentation. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.